Hi everyone, welcome. Today we're checking in on the VermiBag Mini, and you can see they're getting a little chunk of, well, not even so little, a nice big piece of watermelon rind with a little bit of the watermelon still stuck to it. And you know, this thing's been sitting in my freezer for ages. It was not so long ago that we fed a ring of watermelon rind, and it might have actually been the piece that got carved off the edge of this end piece that is the concave, portion. And this pile of stuff is just a bunch of frozen berries. I'm pretty sure it's strawberry and blackberry, but the stuff was already turning to mush and almost like a fluid by the time it made it into the freezer, and it pretty much solidified into a single block of almost solid iceberry. So the reason we're in the VermiBag Mini only 9 days after the last check-in, a little bit out of order, is because at that point in time, last time we were in here, we were only 18 days away from this system matching the 700-day record that the VermiBag Mini attained last time it was in service a couple years ago. And we figured, hey, it's only 18 days till this thing hits 700 days in service, so maybe we'll split that 18 days and come back only 9 days later to check in again. And then 9 days from now, when the system reaches 700 days of age, well, unless something happens and prevents me from being able to get down here to check in, we'll be back in to celebrate 700 days in service and matching the record and sort of taking over as the oldest system in my wormery. So, after only 9 days, I'm wondering if we're going to find leftovers of the stuff we gave them last time. It was just a couple chunks of cantaloupe melon rind. So they're getting a lot of melon these days. Here's one piece of it, where this really thin, floppy piece is where they've already nibbled all the fruity goodness off the melon rind, but this piece of it doesn't flop the way the other end of it does, because this still has some melon on it. So they're still working this down, and I kind of anticipated that after only 9 days we might bump into some leftovers of the melon rind. Just that I felt a little bit of warmth as I started to submerge my fingers down into the bedding here to see what else we can see. I felt a little bit of warmth, probably just the bacteria helping with the breakdown process. There was coffee and I think worm chow also placed in here alongside the melon rind. And here's another thing that's just been going for ages. This piece of pumpkin stem, this stem used to be huge. Even the base of it had these features that would, the parts that attach to the pumpkin itself. And while the system that it's in is now almost 700 days of age, the pumpkin stem itself is actually approaching 800 days in service. So 9 days from now, the VermiBag Mini hits 700 days, and then 11 days from now is when this pumpkin hits 800 days of age. So as you can imagine, this didn't start here in the VermiBag. It started in the yellow buckets that these worms used to live in previously. So I thought there was another piece in here, another piece of cantaloupe melon rind that we might bump into. But if we don't, that's fine. Maybe they actually managed to strip that one clean so it's not falling into my hand as a solid piece of material that's not floppy anymore. Perhaps it was just whittled down to a point where it's not quite as recognizable as the other piece. Although that other piece, well, it broke just now, but still, that thing was pretty good sized object. The fact that there was another one in here that we're not having any luck finding seems unusual, but certain little weird things do happen sometimes, and guess what? It was just a matter of talking about it, and now here we are. Very similar, where one end of it is very thin anymore, while the other end of it over here still has some of the juicy cantaloupe on it. So this is our little collection of recently added and very old leftovers from days gone by. And you know, I was almost anticipating a little bit of a worm party hanging out over here, enjoying that cantaloupe melon. But these worms could just be anywhere in the system at this point. They could just be enjoying other lovely materials breaking down. As you can see, as I start to dig a little bit down into the bedding, we're suddenly encountering many, many more worms just hanging out. So, I don't know if it's going to be possible to sort of trigger a worm party with this piece of watermelon, but that was kind of my hope that, you know, with only 9 days till we hit the record with this system, I figured maybe we can prime the system to be in sort of a party mode when we get back in here. But whether or not that's actually going to happen, who knows? The best we could do is try, right? So my idea for arranging this stuff was to use this as sort of the foundation. And a lot of times the worms have trouble getting through the skin to get at all this nice, soft, delicious material. So I'm wondering if it's going to actually inhibit the worms from getting in here to take part in the delicious feast we're giving them. So we shall see. I'm going to drop a little bit of my prepared bedding into here, which once this stuff here starts to thaw out is going to become soaked with delicious berry juices, making me think that the inside of this watermelon rind is very likely to become a hot spot for worm activity. But I don't want to get too jazzed about it, because if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen, and I don't want to get anyone's hopes too high up. But it did seem to me like setting something like this up might result in a fun check-in next time. And since the next check-in is a milestone, and a record-breaking one at that, I thought it would be fun to try to set the stage for a fun check-in. So, what do you think? Is it gonna work as planned, or did I screw something up? I don't know. All I did there was I dropped in some of this pulverized eggshell, and then I sprinkled it on a little bit of coffee. And now we've almost got a level surface. If we start backfilling here, I do believe we're going to have ourselves, hopefully, a fun check-in next time. So hopefully I'm able to make it back in here on day 700 to commemorate the day that this system matches the record lifespan of the last time the system was in service. But you never know. Something could come in my, on my radar, which would prevent me from being able to check in here as hoped. But we'll just have to see. I guess it's a nice thing that I'm not seeing any flying insects flying around in here. Perhaps the Mosquito Dunks that we've been sprinkling into here regularly has done a good job. But I don't want to assume that we're safe from flying insect infestations, so as a finishing touch, I'm just going to drop a little bit more just to play it safe. So that's it for our check-in now. 9 days away from hitting 700 days in service with a sort of interesting feeding which I hope is going to result in us having a fun worm sighting next time we're in here. So, let's leave it at that. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully we get a nice little worm party down here next time we're in here. So that's it for the video, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.